Hello there, Mad Mike here, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to talk about some supposed leaks that have come out about at least the movie that I'm dreading, which is Space Jam 2, which I believe has also been retitled Space Jam: A New Legacy. Now, I've been over this in other videos before about how Space Jam was kind of like a little microcosm in the 90s. It's very, very unlikely that LeBron James is going to be able to replace Michael Jordan's place in terms of being in that film and being accepted into that film, at least by the audience. Even though they did just win the NBA championship, I will admit that. It's probably good timing to have certain things come out, which is why I don't necessarily think this leak is actually a leak. This seems like it's a bit more deliberate because they win the NBA championship. We have some stuff coming out about Space Jam, which also has LeBron James in it. He's on everybody's mind right now, at least basketball fans. So now you have this, and then they're going to carry that forward. I think that there's probably going to be some other stuff that's going to go on in the coming months. Maybe they'll release some story stuff and things like that. But other than the fact that it looks a little suspicious that maybe this is a real leak or a leak, quote unquote, let's dive into it. So this is the supposed synopsis. Again, this comes to us from writer Ben Meckler. So he has posted this, which again is also another weird thing to me for somebody who's actually like a writer, even though it's kind of odd when things like that come out because a lot of the studios really, really frown upon it. But basically, the synopsis is going to involve LeBron James taking a trip through Warner Brothers Studios with his son, who I assume will be played by his real-life son, because he's basically the reason why this movie is happening. And he's also the one to blame when it fails, remember that. And basically, at some point, the two of them, like during this trip through Warner Brothers Studios, they somehow manage to get trapped in this world that is basically kind of like a Warner Brothers vault, where all of the fictional characters from the various Warner Brothers universes exist. And that's an odd thing. Because I'm sure that obviously the Looney Tunes existed one of them because he has to play basketball with them at some point. But apparently, they're taking this more along the lines of he's lost in kind of like a multiverse kind of thing. And see, the difference is that in the original Space Jam, again, I'm assuming that this synopsis is accurate. That I'm going based on that assumption. I do not necessarily know if it is accurate. So before anybody points that out. If you're going by the original, it was a Looney Tunes story that just happened to have Michael Jordan in it, basically. There was a bit of story to Jordan's arc in the film, but it was more to do with a lot of the Looney Tunes, like Bugs, for instance, was one of the major ones. Then you had Daffy, and all the major Looney Tunes had their moment to shine, kind of in that movie. And the basketball game in that movie was actually entertaining. Now, when you look at what this is trying to do, it's trying to do something where it's trying to bring in all these characters from all these different universes into this one kind of multiverse format. And I think you're adding way, way too much. I think you're putting a lot on that. I think maybe if you just had like a couple of universes, that would probably be fine. Like the Looney Tunes have to play basketball against somebody from like another Warner property. They have to play basketball against the Justice League or something. That sounds like a horribly dumb idea, but I'm just saying that, maybe go with something a bit smaller than, the entire, every single one of your properties becoming an entangled clusterfuck. And apparently there's an entity who's going to be played by Don Cheadle, who is the main villain who controls this fictional world. So there's like a master control to the fictional world, which is kind of interesting. It's basically a bit more of a Tron aspect. And then, in order to escape the Warnerverse, or the Warner Brothers universe, multiverse, whatever the hell he's in, James and his son take help from the Looney Tunes, who must band together to play an epic game of basketball against gamified versions of the world's best basketball players. So they're basically playing, instead of, these somewhat creative, sort of, alien-looking beings that have stolen the abilities of NBA stars. Instead, we're gifted with they're going to play NBA 2K, but in real life. That is one of the most anticlimactic things because the thing is that in the original Space Jam they build up the Monstars. We get a lot from their perspective. We understand that they're abused by their master agent, whatever, who's voiced by Danny DeVito. Um, and we understand that they're really just kind of they're a little bit more misunderstood, and that comes full circle by the end of the film. But they're in the they're it's not just they show up and they play basketball. It's they show up, they figure out what's happening, they get their asses kicked by the Looney Tunes. Or actually, sorry, they don't get their asses kicked by the Looney Tunes. They're about to murder all of them, and the Looney Tunes talk them into a basketball contest. Which again is extremely cliche and really is only there to serve the plot. Although the motivation for it for Bugs Bunny is that they're all incredibly short, so it makes sense. So they at least made it make sense, which I have to credit them with that. With this, it seems like he's just going to walk into a room and it's going to be something weird like it's going to be something strange, like the holodeck from Star Trek or something, where they're just going to enter onto a basketball court and then these NBA players are going to load in. Because that's the other thing too, is that if they're doing that, I'm assuming that's where the other NBA players are coming in the plot line, because there are other NBA players that are going to wind up being in this movie. So maybe that's where they come in, is they're literally just the hallucinations. Or not hallucinations, but the digital manifestations of themselves. So they're basically just going to be playing themselves in a video game. Like I said, I don't like that climax. I don't think that works. I don't think the multiverse aspect of it works. I don't think the movie idea works, because I just don't think that you have the right pieces in order to get that done. And I think I remember in the video that I actually did on why they shouldn't make Space Jam 2, especially with LeBron James, is that I think Kobe Bryant probably would have been perfect for that. I think if they had gotten Kobe Bryant, that would have been great. And he was already dabbling in Hollywood because of his short film that wound up winning an Oscar. Again, his life was unfortunately cut short in the helicopter crash, but I think he would have been somebody that could have made that work. I don't think LeBron James can. But the problem is that LeBron James has basically been spearheading this thing for years. He's basically the only reason why this movie is getting made, because he's pressuring the studios and he's paying. I'm not sure out of pocket, but he's paying some amount of money to them in order to do this. He's not actually getting charged. He's not actually charging them to do something for a change. And it's kind of it works in kind of a weird way, but it also does not work at all. The multiverse aspect. Maybe if you took it in a different direction, maybe if you did something where it was the aliens came back, but they were like old now and they couldn't play basketball anyway. So instead, they just decided to pluck all these like different, basketball these aliens that are like adept at basketball, like a dude that has like 17 arms or something like that, and stick all those guys in there. But they're now, instead of the Danny DeVito guy being up in the altar, screaming at them, now they're screaming at these guys, and you see that they didn't learn anything from the first film, and then the Looney Tunes, with the help of LeBron James and company, would probably, beat them. I guess that would be probably the end of the movie, because that was the same thing that happened in the first movie. And really, you can't change the plot to Space Jam. That is the other problem with doing this, is that the plot of Space Jam worked because it's literally probably the only plot that could have worked in a movie like that with that kind of a setup. This doesn't work because the basketball does not feel any way, shape, or form generic in the plot. Even though the concept of the first Space Jam is extremely outlandish, the point is that it still works because you still believe in that. When you watch that movie, you're in that kind of a universe because of the Looney Tunes, because of the way that stuff is. And really, the Looney Tunes are the ones that you're invested in. You're not really invested too much in Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, was just there to kind of sell the movie, basically. I definitely wasn't for his acting, I can say that much. And probably LeBron James, I would not think would do very much better. Maybe a little bit better. He's actually not bad at doing commercials. But now you have a situation where you don't you're only going to have the Looney Tunes for what it seems like is like a limited time, because most of it is just going to be LeBron James and son walking through Warner Brothers universes. It doesn't seem like this movie should be called Space Jam. Let me put it that way. Other than the fact that it has an NBA player and Looney Tunes in it, or multiple NBA players and Looney Tunes in it. But I don't. Like I said, I don't like the idea of this movie being made anyway, because I don't think they can do it correctly, and I don't think they have the people to do it correctly. So that's where I've always kind of stood on it. But the synopsis does not give you very much hope for that. But I want to know what you think. Assuming that this is real, again, it could just be all bullshit. We have heard stuff before about the whole mixing in other Warner characters and stuff like that into the Space Jam universe before this. So this kind of is bouncing off of that. So it is a little bit suspect, but it's coming from somebody who's a writer. It's not like an anonymous source. He said that basically he got it from an email that was from an advanced screening of the film, and he just threw it out there, which again seems a little bit deliberate to me in a sense, because normally they'd get blacklisted for that real quick. But I want to know what you think. Do you like this synopsis? Do you think they should be making Space Jam 2? Do you not think they should be making Space Jam 2? Do you like the original film, period? Because I know a lot of people actually don't like that film. Put your thoughts in the comments below. As usual, I like to read them. Hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button, subscribe, and remember, I live my life free of compromise. Do you